For you.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, good evening and welcome to another edition of Raw and Real with TJ and Jen. And I don't know how it is in y'all's part of the world, but we're way colder than we anticipated in West Texas, I promise you. We weren't supposed to get this cold weather until tomorrow, supposedly, but it did not work out that way. I don't think we got out of the teens, as they say today, so
that wind chill was brutal.
we were out finishing up some last minute gift ideas and stuff and decided to postpone to this evening and have a fair shakedown at this episode so we weren't rushed around near as bad.
Yeah.
But
now we're frozen and ready for pajamas.
Oh man, after fighting the crazy in town, it's Lubbock's kind of not really a crazy town, so we're not really used to the holiday thing, I guess.
They were on crack today. Oh.
But nevertheless, we're glad to be here with you this evening, and I think we've got some really awesome stuff to share with you. It's really neat to me to kind of dig down deep and stuff. And I mean, I guess I'll start out by saying, we made a list of stuff we wanted to discuss in the next few months, and this one seemed fitting for this time of year, but we kind of titled this one No Room. Of course, you can probably imagine where we're going with this, out of Luke chapter 2 and the birth of Jesus. But I was sharing with Jennifer coming home. I was said I did some back digging and stuff and this morning, and I kind of found out some stuff that still kind of has me intrigued, to be honest with you. I'm gonna have to go do some more research to find out. But basically, y'all know the story. My grandmother's always made us read this every Christmas, and that's kind of a tradition. Braylee's been doing it, but it was a thing that I had to do when I was a kid. I don't know why her reasoning to starting it. I don't even know where it started. We actually started doing it over at my great grandmother's house when I was little. Oh yeah, it was. Everybody would sit in the family room, and her house was different because the kitchen and what I knew was the living room was basically the same room. There was no wall dividing it. There was a kitchen with a little dinette thing in it, and then the living room where the TV was, and then you went from there into the dining room, and then there was a sitting room at the front.
Okay.
Where that porch is. That was kind of a sitting room, and then piano and couches and chairs.
Yeah.
I guess they just had it back then, but
I think all those older houses had sitting rooms at the front.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, even that house we lived in Post, that's kind of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a giant sitting room. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird, but we had all gather in there around the tree, and we would read, Luke chapter 2. That was just the thing, and I'm sure most of you know, and I'll kind of get into it a little bit real quick. Verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this tax was the first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, every one into his own city." I found out that's crucial, so keep that in mind. Kind of bookmark that in your mind. "And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, these days accomplished, that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." Well, I kind of first started out, and I've actually preached a message on this before many moons ago when I was first starting out, but basically it was, no room for Jesus is kind of what it made me think of. Mm-hmm. And I very first the thing that hit me the most was, I find it ironic that Jesus was brought into the world the way he was. I mean, being the Son of God, he had everything worked out. I mean, he had the conception worked out. He had the whole plan of Jesus worked out ahead of time. Why in the world would he not choose a much higher place to bring him into the world? I mean, you ever think about that, or am I the weird one here?
No, I mean, I've thought about that. But then I'm like, I'm kind of one of those people. I'd rather listen to somebody that has a true testimony than listen to somebody he's good all the time and I've never had a worry. And
yeah.
So I resonate with that better, and so I kind of wonder if that's why.
Like more of a humbling experience, down to earth, about the people,
because
amongst the people.
Because if he would have come about as this king, or you know what I mean, like if he would have come about, like, would people have treated him differently? Would people have treated him? You know, I don't think his works would have been as amazing because he was already exalted. You know what I mean?
I don't think he'd have had the testimony.
Exactly.
I don't think he would have. I don't think anything would have. I dared to say I don't even know if he would have been crucified.
Exactly.
If he was brought forth in a godly sense, they would have all viewed no different. Because, we discussed this before about the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, and they were very, very partial to the Torah, or the first 5 books of Moses, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. And so, I'm kind of like you. I think if he would have been brought forth in God form, I don't think they would have viewed him any different than the burning bush was to Moses. I don't think he would have ever been able to complete the mission had God done it differently.
Right.
So I would have to agree with you. I think it was significant that he was brought forth the way that he was. No doubt about it. And but as I was digging, remember I told you to bookmark that about and all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. That's important. Excuse me, because of some of the research led to an article written by a Reverend Ian Paul, and he is a theologian, a biblical theologian, and he actually wrote a blog on this. He actually, in this thing that I was reading, he said that the reason that Joseph left and took them to Bethlehem was because of the census. That he would have had to have gone to be, I guess, with family for them to get the census, is what this article was saying.
Yeah, because it says in there, because he was of the house and lineage of David. That's why they went there.
Right. So that ties back in geographically, excuse me. I'll get my stuff together. Going here in a minute, but
I don't know what you put in your coffee.
Right? But nip in the air. But
Starbucks cheated me. That's what happened.
but basically, the Palestinian law would have been that he was supposed to have gone around family, so they could get a census, no different than they do in modern times, and that the actual part here at the end of verse 7 is incorrect. Excuse me, because they actually translated this because there was no room in the inn. But he debunks this because, and I even went and looked this up, and I have a Greek Hebrew interlinear Bible, and the Greek word that's used in the actual translation, the actual Greek translation is Kataluma, is how it's. I'm not even going to try it, but that's the word used. Well, if you look that up in the Strong's, it's reference number G2647, which means Greek 2647, and it tells you how to say it. That Kataluma is how they say it. But if you look that up, it's actually a lodging place or a eating room or a dining room, and even as it gets into it, it tells you it's a guest room. So, digging back, even in present day times now, like most houses, even in Palestine, are set up to where you're living. It's like a 2-story building where your room is on top. Like you eat, you sleep, all that's up here, and then underneath that floor is where they will like bring their animals in that normally has hay and stuff like that. So it wasn't actually supposed to be like a detached barn or stable like we think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you have a house and you have horses, well, you think, well, he was born out there in the horse barn.
Right.
No, he was actually, it was underneath that house. So, and actually, instead of being surrounded by strangers, he was actually, according to this guy's blog and article, he was actually born around family and friends. Like aunts and uncles and all that were there around him.
I want a house like that.
Where you're living above the livestock?
I can bring all my little cows in. I can bring all my
Back
baby
on that
horses
again.
in.
We've actually seen some barn dominiums like that. They're pretty exquisite, where all the living quarters is upstairs. I mean, and it's immaculate. And then there's one I saw had what was it, 2, 4, 6, had 8 stables basically, and there was like 2 on this corner, 2 on this corner, 2 on this corner, 2 on this corner.
Yeah, they were all gated separately. Like
Gated separately, and you could walk down the main stairs to go down underneath there. All big open concept, limestone, rock, whatever. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, but
just walk downstairs and play with my babies.
our babies are freezing tonight, but no, I mean, I found it interesting, and I even looked it up, and I jumped on up further ahead, but it's actually the same word that they used when Jesus had his last supper. The actual place they're talking about is the same Greek word used. So
At the inn?
yeah, it's not really an inn, but it's more of a guest room or a. This one is, of course, in that text it's talking about the upper room, is what it's talking about, and that's out of G508 is what that's under, and it's a whole different word, but it's a second floor building or whatever. But it does kind of confirm that guy's story about it wasn't a detached inn, or it wasn't like, hey, we're on vacation and mom goes into labor and
right.
There's no room at the hotel, so we had to go find a farmer's barn.
Right.
That's kind of the image that I was taught in Sunday school.
Yeah,
and it's actually not, according to this guy's story, it's not accurate.
Well, and I was always told that they fled because she was with child, the disgrace factor, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I always thought they fled. That's what I was always taught.
He said, the part I wrote down was the reason that Joseph and Mary had traveled to Bethlehem was because of the census, because he had family there. And if he did the customs of the first century Palestine required him to stay with family and relatives and not with strangers. And so that's what this guy's blog got into. And so
yeah, and it's something like we've read every year.
Every year.
I mean, we teach it to our kids, we read it to our kids, like it's everything is the story of his birth. Even non-Christians.
Right.
They know the story of his birth, and it
right.
tells us right there why they went. So why we always, I don't know why I always assume that. I mean, it tells me right here why.
What does it say?
The world should be taxed.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to go.
Yeah, I mean.
So he went up to Bethlehem because he was of the house and lineage of David. Like, it tells you.
And that's the thing, Monty always said Christians quit reading too early, and I think it's true, but I also think that's why there's the fivefold ministry. There's some out there that are just born teachers, and that's their job, is to really dig deep and find the truth. And we've always known that there is not a version out there, a man-made version of the Bible, that's not off by a little bit. I mean, the King James, they always said, was the closest to the true translation.
Right.
But that's why I wanted, the Strong's and the Interlinear Bible, for that reason, to be able to dig into things and to find the truth, because I think we miss a lot based on the fact we don't have the facts. We miss a lot of valid information because we just assume or whatever.
Well, and like I wrote a blog about it this past week about Mary. She always comes to my mind because I think of her in the now. And
Yeah.
I think that's where we misinterpret the Bible, because if that would have happened, well, not even so much now. I mean, being pregnant before you're married is not a huge thing anymore. In those days, though, like, it was a reason to be stoned.
And a lot of, I hate to say, countries or to some degree over there, it still is.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have the what they call the honor killings.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why we've always looked at it in that word.
Right.
Because, or realm, not word.
I know what you meant.
Because that's how we would be treated today. I mean, we would be talked about, gossiped about. We'd be on every social media platform being blasted from the heavens. You know what I mean? And so I think we take it personal. And like that Mary is nothing like any of us today. I mean,
no.
Nothing.
No, and it's one of the things that aggravates me the most because we're losing our moral compass. Morals are out the window. It's kind of an anarchy type situation that we're slowly morphing into in society all around the world because everything's accepted. There are no boundaries.
Right.
Well, if there's no boundaries, then that means there's no rules, which is anarchy. I mean, that's the only way to describe it.
Right.
And that's where we're headed. Everybody is fighting and winning on the case of no rules because we just saw the other day, the president signed that it's legal in all 50 states for same-sex marriages.
Yeah.
And I'm not, going to sit here and get into a whole deal about that, but my point is it's becoming more and more and more where there are no rules. I remember it wasn't 20, 30, 40 years ago, like interracial marriage was a huge thing. And now it was, not such a big deal. And now it's same-sex marriage. And like, when are we going to have boundaries and rules and regulations? And that's my whole point is not saying that if you're in that situation yourself that you're dying and going to hell or anything like that, or you're wrong, or that's not for me to sit here and tell you. I'm just laying out the facts of we have drifted so far away from God and His Word and His playbook and everything else that it's becoming where we have no rules and there's no morals. And
I don't think it's that we don't have any rules. I think just everybody's taking what they like and running with it, and what they don't like and running with it. And so, oh, that's a cool rule. We'll abide by that. But this one, that one's stupid. We're not going to do that. So that's why you have 900 different churches in a small town.
That's it in a nutshell.
I don't like what you said about this because that's a bunch of crap, even though it's right here. Or you didn't preach the Bible that came through an email, the message that came through an email, so you're out. Don't like you anymore, so we'll just go do our own thing. People are just nitpicking and choosing what rules they want to abide by and what rules they want to follow.
Exactly. But, it circles back to there's basically like no room for Jesus in our lives. I mean, you look at these holidays, for example. I mean, what have they turned into? It's less and less about Jesus, and it's more and more and more about gifts, and it's more about celebrating gifts rather than celebrating Jesus.
We're not even celebrating the people we love anymore. We're just seeing who can pour out the most money.
Yeah.
And who can do better, and who's had a better year, or who has a better credit limit. It's not even about truly going and picking out a gift that your mom has always wanted, or something that she's looked at all year long that she just wouldn't buy for herself. It's not that anymore. It's just going out and, oh, this is expensive. She needs one of these.
Well,
when did we lose that?
I don't know. And like on all the shows that are on, network at the moment, I mean, I've watched them all week long for the last week or so, and everything that that comes about it is about how big and glamorous we can go out for the holidays, whether it be gifts or meals or clothes or decorations. Like that's all it's become. I mean, when are we gonna when are we gonna make time that Jesus has room in our lives? That's what I'm trying to help spread the word on and trying to help encourage on, because I mean, it's not hard to do if we really just want to do it bad enough.
Right.
Anything that's a priority isn't that big a deal. Like we could make time on our way home from work, or going to work, going to get the kids, picking the kids up. What's wrong with praising Jesus or things like that with your kids in the vehicle? I mean, but it's not. It's shove an electronic device in front of them so they'll be quiet, stay out of our hair. That's become our moral compass nowadays. I know, and here I am trying to improve and work on it and be better. And I mean, there was a time there I worked in the oil field, and I made time during the day for Jesus. I had to keep my head screwed on straight, and if I didn't, then I drifted off course. That was a very crucial time in my life because I wanted to change so much. I wanted so much more than what I had, but it wasn't materialistic. I was craving something spiritual. I was craving something that was going to help me feel complete and whole on the inside. So, I mean, I don't know. But, it's like one of our, I don't know that I would say friend because we've never physically met, but we know them through some other people. But it's Ty and Heather Bean there at Cowboy Junction in Hobbs, New Mexico. He had a deal on the other day, and it really struck a chord in me when he was doing a reel on Instagram, and the whole deal was, about Jesus and the good news and how that should be us. We should be the good news. And we were talking the other day that people aren't going to church because they're not getting what they're missing. And that's what they're missing is the good news. There's plenty of chaos and turmoil and all kinds of stuff going on in this world, but there is hardly ever any good news.
Yeah.
Either political or local or anything to that. It's always negative. It's always something bad. That's what people want to watch, something bad. The more drama, the more conflict, the more. And I mean, deep down, it makes me want to truly be like, I need to be the change. I need to be something different for this world.
Yeah.
I need to be, the good news. People should be able to see Jesus or God in me, through me, from me.
But that's why more people aren't walking in their calling. It's because that's a hard road.
It is hard. It's very hard.
Very hard road. And I don't want to say it's not worth it, but I don't think people think they're strong enough to hoe that road on their own. Road.
Hoe that road. That's a farming term, but yeah.
Maybe Starbucks didn't do me dirty.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about before. They're not being taught. I think people can't walk in their calling because I don't think they're encouraged to walk in their calling. I really don't. I have been to several different churches in my lifetime. And I've been to some that were animate and encouraged and hammered home on learning your calling, walking in your calling, operating your calling. And I've been to some that the whole deal was, we're going to get there, we're going to sing 4 or 5 hymns, we're going to sit down, he's going to deliver some poetry, and off we go. And that is the way it goes. And we may or may not give an altar call, I guess, based on the fact whether he sees anybody new. If I don't see anybody new in the crowd, I'm not going to extend the gospel, so to speak, to see if there's anybody that wants to be born again.
And two, I mean, if there's that spirit of jealousy, if I teach them to do this, they're going to go and do it better. We dealt with that a lot. And so it's like, let me hold my thumb on you, teach you just enough to where you crave it, but I don't show you how to go get it.
That's a good point. I mean, It has happened,
Yes.
but I think a lot of it boils down to principle. In a way, it's more or less of religious principle. It's just not what they do. I've never been to a Catholic service that I know of.
We went to a funeral.
I went to a funeral when we lived in another town, but I've never been to an actual Catholic service. So I don't really know what they teach or conduct or whatever. I can't speak on that. But for the other ones that I have been to, like, I know it is a religious theology, I guess you would say, where it's the pastor doesn't teach how to start a ministry on your own, or to be the ministry, or to do the things that Jesus has asked us in the gospel in all four accounts to do.
Yeah.
To go out and do the works of the ministry.
Right.
It's not taught. In fact, Jesus said it in Matthew 5:14. He said, "You're the light of the world. A city that sits on a hill cannot be hidden." And so many times, I don't think anybody's light is truly shining in the way that they're created to shine. I'm not saying that everybody's not doing the work. I don't know everybody that listens or watches, but it is definitely a question I raise. I mean, are we operating in our max capacity? And I have to say, no, we're not, or there would not be the decline of God in the world.
Right.
And he's definitely, in my opinion, oppressed. Like, he's not. We're losing the ground, is what I'm getting at. I mean, obviously, with everything going on and everybody being so unpleased and unhappy with the way things are going, that tells me that God's not involved in it. So I don't know. I mean, there's not room for God. There's not room for Jesus in our lives. It's all about working and building a career, a portfolio, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, and I keep going back to Mary. But this angel comes to her and tells her what's going to happen. Like, she's nobody. She's very poor,
Right.
from what I understand. Very oppressed. Like, nobody. Doesn't feel worthy. Like, all of us don't, I'm sure. So this angel comes to her and tells her this. And her only question was, how? I don't have a husband.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never been with a man. Like,
Right.
that was her only question. He answered and told her how it would happen. And all she said, and this scripture gets me every time, it's in Luke 1:38. And I'll read it out of the Amplified. Then Mary said, "Behold, I am the handmaiden of the Lord. Let it be done to me according to what you have said." She just said, "Okay, like, use me. Let it be done to me." Knowing, like, I would have been like, was Joseph going to stay? Am I going to raise this kid on my own? She didn't even know what he was going to endure on the cross.
Yeah,
that's not even getting into that heartbreak. I can't imagine. But, like, why are we not saying, yes, me, use me? Just let your will be done through me. Whatever it is you're saying, like, I believe you, I trust you. Why are we questioning that? Why are we putting our works in other people's hands? And I'm very guilty of that. I'd be like, well, Pastor, what am I supposed to do? What am I called to do, I know I'm called for more than just to sit here on this pew, and we've always known that. And then, like, when we got prophesied over, I was like, okay, cool, tell me how.
Actually, when you got prophesied over, you were in tears. You were scared. You were Mary in reverse. Like, you were terrified.
I had questions.
She's standing there shaking, bawling, and I was like excited and pumped up. I was like, I got an answer. Thank you, Lord. And I look over, and here's my bride of less than a year, and she's just, maybe it was about a year, but it wasn't long. I think we had Braley, so it would have been about a year.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, like you're just in tears and
I
shaking
had
and
questions. I wanted to know how, where, when, why. I needed a plan. I needed a game plan. That was not my best yes, for certain.
to answer your question, I truly feel this is the best answer scripturally and personally. We are removing the Holy Trinity from everything. There is no room for the Holy Trinity in our life at all. It's not a priority. I'm not saying that everybody falls underneath that, but as a whole, if you've dealt with any of those problems, it's because there's not enough God in your life. He's removed out of the home. Let's be honest. How many families still sit down to a family meal together, pray? How many jobs do we have that God is a main factor in? I know in the oil field, God was not welcome for the most part. A lot of cussing, a lot of drinking, a lot of, you know what I mean? It's just the oil field, you know?
Nursing room, too. I mean,
schools. No longer is prayer allowed before we start school. In fact, I'm how much God is involved in government, in the U.S. government. I mean, right now at this point, courts are the only thing I know that they have anything to do with God. They make you swear on the Bible and to God that you're going to tell the truth when you're under oath. But I mean, realistically, like.
Yeah, we won't talk about them placing a purse over the Bible just so they didn't have to touch it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are removing, like God, the Holy Spirit, all that is being removed even from churches. And I'm just going to be as honest as I can on that. I mean, if you're serving at a place or worshiping at a place and the Holy Spirit doesn't have full reign there, then you've removed God from there. There's no room for that. It's one piece that doesn't appeal to you. And the whole argument with that in most religious backgrounds is that was for an apostolic time, like when Paul walked. That it was for a specific time, and that time's not here anymore. That's the argument.
Okay.
That's the argument. So, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the best way I know to answer, your question with everything going on is because there's not room. Yeah. Christians are no longer a force. We're a minority.
Yeah. And we're a busy nation. Like, everything is so busy. Like, our kids are in 10 different sports. Everything's busy. Microwaved and busy. Gotta have it fast, and we've got to stay busy. Because that's one way that he'll get you. If he can't push you down, he'll keep you busy.
Weren't you telling me the other day you was reading something, a report that talked about the 5G towers and all the side effects that they have?
Yeah.
And I've always said we're going to end up destroying ourselves with this technology.
Yeah.
Like we're too lazy. Like we don't have to. We were laughing the other day with the kids during homeschool because our teachers told us that we weren't always going to have access to a calculator. You know what I mean? In fact, it was even banned. There was a time where the calculator watch were huge. A friend of mine had one. I thought it was the neatest thing ever. I mean, it was a square. I mean, you could sit here and, you know what I mean? Yeah. And yet now we have cell phones that all have calculators on them now. So, I mean, we are literally taking...
Take that, math teacher.
We don't even have to go to the encyclopedias. We just Google it on the phone. Anything you want to know, you can pull up on the internet.
Yeah, that's another thing we were talking about the other day was doing research papers.
Yeah.
Now you can Google everything. Like, you don't even have to go to the library.
Right.
And we had to go through the cards.
We were taught how to do all that.
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know if they have them in the library anymore. I know ours doesn't, but I don't know about the big
No,
ones.
it's a computer, is it not? Now you just type it on a computer and it tells you where it is?
Yeah. And learning the number systems and where to find your books. And
yep.
like now they're just like, Google it. Or put it on your Kindle. Or put it on your phone, and I'm not griping I have a Kindle, but
It's because we don't
it's
have
for
room to store all your
convenience.
books.
But I mean, it's just we're in a totally different generation, and it's a give me generation.
Everything is
I want
quicker
the
and
biggest,
faster.
I want the best, and I'll stomp on anybody's head to get there.
All the movies we've seen where they run over you for gifts, and it's pretty much true. I mean, it really is.
That is one time I will not fight. I will not fight you at Christmas time. I would much rather just see something in the middle of March and be like, you know what, that looks like so and so. I think they'd love that. And go wrap it and give it to them in the middle of March instead of being forced to give anybody a present on December 25th.
Well, there's a lot of controversy that even debates whether December 25th was actually even the right time of his birth. So I don't have all the details on that to even get into it, but I'm just throwing it out there. I mean,
You're not going to change an age-old celebration.
well, no,
anyway,
it's not going to
so.
fix anything. But I just, if I can help, share the love and the light to one person, then I've done my job, But as I was doing my studies, it led me over into Second Timothy, and the actual title in my Bible is "Dangers of the Last Day" or "Dangers of the Last Days." 2 Timothy 3:1-5, and some of the things that it discusses in there were eye-opening to me. As it goes on, it says, people will only love themselves and their money. And the actual Greek word that it used there is a word that means covetous. Like they literally covet themselves and their money. Another thing it says is they're boastful and proud. They will consider nothing sacred, which is translated, if you look that one up, it's actually unholy. So nothing is holy. Everything is unholy.
Okay.
They'll slander others and have no self-control. Cruel and hate what is good.
Oh, wow.
It talks about betraying friends and recklessness and full of pride. Love pleasures more than God. And you find all of that in 2 Timothy 3:1-5. And you want to talk about not having room for God, this is exactly where it leads to. And this is exactly what Paul was writing to Timothy as understudy during that time. And this is what he was telling him to watch out for.
And we're there.
My gosh, we're there.
Every one of those.
I mean, you have to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, we're well off in the middle of that. Not only in our personal lives, but in our work and definitely in our worship.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
For sure.
I'm not the only one that sees that. I mean, heck, even, was it Casting Crowns that came out with that? Oh my
You're
gosh.
asking the wrong person about songs.
It's got to start right here.
Yeah, I don't know who's
I think it's Casting Crowns that sing. It's either that or Mercy Me. I think it's Casting Crowns. But they sing that, We get our coffee in the lobby and we want everything going on anywhere else but here.
Right.
Like if we're going to make changes, if we're going to do something, it's got to start in our homes, which will lead into our schools and our work, which will lead into everything else. But it's not a priority. There's no room for Jesus, even to this day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
You're spot on.
You look. I thought you had something you wanted to add. That's why I was waiting.
I don't think so. I mean, we're kind of dealing with that now. Like we've allowed some habits to creep in and take over, like in our family life. That we're now having to put our foot down and be like, no more. We're not living this way.
Right.
And it's caused a lot of chaos. That's a nice word.
No, it has. It's not been easy.
And I mean, it's hard to make changes. And I think that's why more people don't want to make changes, is because it's so hard. I mean, it was easier just letting them continue to do what they were doing because you weren't getting all the rebellion and the rebuttals and the fights, and it was peaceful. But yet, it wasn't a good thing.
Well, and that's the hard part, like you were saying, because doing what's right and doing what's good is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
If it was, it wouldn't be such a big deal. It wouldn't be so attacked, I would say, because that's exactly what Satan's wanting us to do. He's wanting us to remove God from our lives and make more room for Him, because then we're not effective. Then we're not, active, and we're not out there trying to beat up and bash others, because that's what's pleasing and appealing to Him. God's not prevalent, He is.
Right.
Which is all He ever wanted to do in the first place.
And you may not be worshiping the devil. Like, you could be worshiping your money or your prized new vehicle or your beautiful new mansion. Like, you're not worshiping the devil, but you're idolizing these other things. And so it's taking your complete focus off of Him and put it on these other things
exactly.
that have become bigger and better than Him.
Right. And that's the whole point of this, is there's no room for God in our lives. That's the whole point. And we don't know the hour that Jesus is coming. The Bible tells us that. So, I think a lot of times we're waiting around thinking, I got time, I can go play for a little bit. But the Bible says we don't even know the hour or the minute or the second that He's going to come. So why would you want to take that risk? We do need to start spending more time concentrating on converting people, helping others transform their lives and their thinking, and preparing for the new world that's coming.
Right.
But it's so much easier to cut loose and go play. Like, I know I struggled with that for a very long time. And all it ever left me was empty, broken, physically and literally. You know what I mean? I was physically broke. Like, I had no money. I was chasing down everything I could find, and I couldn't make enough money to sustain the things I was seeking. Like, I was always broke. And so, here God waited all this time, and He was patient and never gave up. And when I finally got my life screwed back on and got things on track, He's there with open arms. And that was something that always hit with me when you back up to the Last Supper. Even Jesus made room for Judas. The very man that betrayed Him, He made room for him at that table. He knew he was going to betray Him. He knew what was fixing to happen. He already knew all this. He had already seen what was going to happen. He knew in his heart, and it really terrified him. He wept because of it. He knew everything that was going to happen. He knew that, but he still made room for Judas, and he still washed his feet.
I wrote that. I was thinking about that the other night. I couldn't sleep, and it came up because my brain at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you knew you only had 24 hours to live, what would you do? I'm like, well, I'd spend time with you.
Right.
And I would, make all my wrongs right, and you know what I mean? He knew, and He washed feet. He knew. And that's what He did. He washed people's feet. And I'm like, wow, I am very selfish. You know what I mean? Like, it's never been about me, and it can't be about me. It's got to be about these other people that are dying and going to hell. And it does start right here in the four walls of your home.
Yeah.
Your kids, your family, we're struggling with video game addiction, and I think it's okay to say that. I mean,
I'm sure we're not the only home.
we're not the only people, I'm sure, and you're sitting there legit watching your kids die, and a little piece of them goes away every single day because they cannot stop an addiction, and they're being fed this crap and gunshots and driving and madness is really what it is. It's just chaos. Every game they play is just full of chaos. And I mean, we don't really let them play the horrible ones.
We try to monitor it best we can.
But I still think it's just chaos. Their brains are going non-stop, 90 to nothing. And so when we take that away, and we've met the resistance and the rebellion and the fits and we're killing them, you know, basically, because we're making them stop. Or not even stop, just tone it down. Like, you only have so much time a day to do it.
Right.
I'm looking back and I'm like, I'm having to fight with you just to read the Bible.
Yes.
I'm having to fight with you, like, and you start questioning, like, are my kids even saved? Or, you know, is my entire family right here? If we died today, would they go to heaven? It makes you really stop in your tracks and think, I have lost my family. And if I don't get a grip on it, I'm going to lose my family.
I'm glad when you said that. It dawned on me. One of the other things I didn't talk about is in verse 2 of 2 Timothy 3. It says, "For men should be lovers of themselves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to their parents, and unthankful and unholy." So it is exactly where that leads. And I mean, it's not been an easy road, but it was one that we felt we had to start legit making some changes in.
Yeah. We're losing everything that we're doing, yet we're still going out and we're trying to help all these other people, and our own family is dying and going to hell because we don't have room for him. We don't make the time for him. And you have to change that. And, it's hard. It's been a hard road, and I'm sure that there's a lot of times that I wish I could take back, losing my temper and, you know, not doing things the right way. And,
for sure.
I mean, but it's been hard, and I understand now why people don't change their ways. Like, I get it, and I know now why we stayed in that rut for so long.
Yeah, it's easier.
It's hard to change. It is so hard. It's so much easier to minister with other people's families and be like, okay, y'all go on. It's a whole different ballgame when you're looking back and you're like, well, we're not even making room. Our kids aren't making that room. You know what I mean? And
I already told them I'm preaching to myself 90% of the time here.
every day.
I am not sitting here like I'm better than you or above you, because
we do not have it figured out.
No.
But I can tell you what does not work.
Well, and that's the reason that we wanted to do these, you know, was to get out there and have these discussions, have these interactions with people, and, you know, talk about the hard stuff. Get raw and real, and maybe somebody out there can help us. Maybe we can help them. It's an open concept kind of thing with these things, and we didn't want it to be like a sermon. I mean, we have those moments in our lives where we get to preach, but we wanted like round table discussions where, you know, Christians and other non-believers can just be real, and hopefully we can all be better people because of it in the end.
Absolutely.
So, oh man, well, I think it was a great segment. I was excited to get into this.
I know you had some good history.
I'm not through studying it out. I really want to know some more. Like some of the stuff we talked about. Was she really forced out because of that, or whatever? Or was it just because of the census? You know, I mean, you have to wonder.
Because he did marry her before they went to Bethlehem. Like it says in there that they were espoused. Right? His espoused wife.
Yeah.
So they were, I mean, he did marry her. I mean, I don't know. said, I don't know how people thought back then. I mean,
Well, I was doing some stuff a while back for my own personal thing, and I looked up, ancient Corinth and did a lot of digging because I love those two writings of Paul's. First and Second Corinthians are massive to me, and just the stuff I learned that I never knew because it wasn't taught. I guess they didn't feel it relevant to teach about it, but all the stuff that he was doing and everything over there, and all those journeys and how far he had to travel and all that stuff. It was interesting. Maybe I'll do a blog on it one day or something. I don't know, but I like trying to figure out the behind the scenes stuff on that. I don't like doing it in movies. I mean, movies to me and Bradley go around and around. She loves to do that on movies, and I'm like, you ruin the movie.
yes.
But when it comes down to the Bible, I want to know all that I can. I want to know every single inch of knowledge that I can get on the Bible because it's interesting to me. So.
Oh no, it's just I'm curious to see if it's just our feelings that we put out there. Like maybe nobody judged her, maybe nobody said anything. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a conference call. He didn't come and tell everybody, I'm going to impregnate this lady, so don't give her crap.
Right.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of that
I'll probably go dig it
I'd
up.
love to know.
I'll probably dig it up. Never know. But we appreciate it, guys. I know these videos have been climbing, and we appreciate it. We really do. The subscriptions and things, we are humbled. The blogs keep doing well, and we are humbled there too. And so we just thank you so much. And if there's anything we can do, reach out, email, text.
Yes.
Y'all know the drill. So get with us and let us know if we can help you. But until then, everybody have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you after the holidays on Monday, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. Bye-bye.